Good morning. Namaste, everyone. Well, we've had somebody that asked for a number of scriptures to be looked at and commented on. One of them is the Yoga Vasishta. Well, how many years do you have to go through that? Okay. Oh, yeah. Another one is the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. I think I've seen that text before. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find it somewhere and maybe do the commentary on it. The Tripura Rahasya, I have done some commentary on the Tripura Rahasya. Again, I'll look through the videos, see if I can happen to find that one. Pratyabhijñā sastra. Now that I've never seen that text before. So I think we are going to look up that. I found a PDF copy of it online today. So I haven't read through it yet. I have no idea how long it is. Hopefully it's not really long. But I'll look at that one today. So that will be interesting to go through one that I've never read. Okay. Dhammapada. I have done a bit on Dhammapada before, but that's a wonderful text. I'll go ahead and when I get home, I have a Dhammapada at home somewhere. So I can dig it out and we can go through it. And major Upanishads. There are 10 major Upanishads, so maybe we'll go through some of those. Okay, we're not going to do them all today. And the Yoga Vasishta, it's like, yeah, how many years do we have for that? So that one, if you want to read it, it's a very long text. If I remember correctly, it's a book that's like all about Ram, and he left and he went out into the forest and took his bow with him and, went out to take his thing. Anyway, it's a very, very long text. And Yoga Vasishta was a sage. If I remember correctly, it's been so many years since I've even seen that text. So, again, I'll have to review that because I don't even remember what is in it at all. So, anyway, let's go ahead and look at this text. We'll just jump right into this. The ultimate reality in its chief aspect, or as universal consciousness, being absolutely independent and self-contained, is the ultimate cause of manifestation, and bringing a manifested system to its appointed consummation. Okay, everything that's contained in the universe, as stated before, springs from this, from the great is, or that pregnant void. When it starts to go out and move, it becomes Shakti. It subdivides and becomes what is the seen universe, the divisionary universe. Okay, everything is contained within that. It's not something separate one to the other. Okay, verse 2, this reality, emerging as divine power by her own independent will, unfolds the manifested universe on the screen of her own consciousness. Well, this, comes to everyone. Everyone, it's what is quantum. Okay, this reality emerging as a divine power, when the thoughts begin, okay, it projects outward as universe, okay, and it is on the screen of your own consciousness, okay. Let's continue on. Verse 3. The universe appears different to every individual on account of differences in the corresponding subjects and objects. Exactly. Everyone has gathered and collected their own dramas, their own experiences. And you can have two people in the same household, same mother, same father, same basic experiences, but they might be one is night from day from the other one. Their take on those experiences will be totally different. Okay, so everyone has a different type of relationship with the divisionary world within their conscious awareness. Let's go on to number 4. The Atma, or the individual monad, is merely a contracted or centralized form of universal consciousness. Exactly. You know, it's not separate. Okay? In fact, there would be no consciousness without this inherent energy of that divine is, that pregnant void, which then again, once one subdivides into divisionary Shakti, which creates this universal divisionary world that we enter in and play within. Okay? Even though he is nothing but pure consciousness, this is obscured by the mental world of the individual which fills it. Right. You're not going to see this divine pregnant void because of the attachment to the divisionary realm. Therefore, it's occluded for a time. This occlusion takes place because one is so attracted and so caught up in the Shakti, the divisionary, that they haven't stilled long enough for this to settle, to see beyond this Shakti to that which is primary, which is this indivisible is. Okay. It is nothing but the ultimate reality which, descending from the stage of pure consciousness, okay, what's what I call pure consciousness, I call it intellect without knowledge. It's pure universal intellect. It has the capacity to know, but in its purest form, it's stripped bare of all these divisionary things. Therefore, it is pure intellect without knowledge. Okay. So let's go through this again. It is nothing but the ultimate reality which, descending from the stage of pure consciousness, becomes the individual mind by becoming contracted to and assimilated with the images of objects present in the field of consciousness. Exactly. You know, this all expanded divine is becomes contracted because one has, at that point, like I said, become focused on this divisionary world. And the divisionary objects are what is in that attention. Okay, so what is occluded for this point in time until one does meditation, until one stills, so that the divisionary can recede and one can see what is prior to that, or what runs like a thread through that, which all of the universe hangs on. They say it's like a thread, and it's like pearls that are strung on a thread. Okay, that universal is that thread, and the pearls are the divisionary world. Okay. They are never without that is. Okay. Okay. The lower self, having only illusory knowledge, is nothing but this chitta, or in other words, is this mind in its essential nature. Exactly. No matter how caught up you are in the illusion, you are never distanced from that primary is. Like I said, when you are still caught up in the divisionary world, that is occluded. One is not aware of it, okay? But it has to exist, or none of these things could come into existence. Okay. He is a single center in universal consciousness, but he appears as dual, triple, fourfold Atman, as a subjective reality, and as 7 pentads in the expression of his inherent nature in manifestation. Exactly. There's only one divine is. There's only one divine is, but it appears to subdivide. Just like you have a lampshade, if you cut holes in it, it appears to be many rays of light, but it comes from one bulb of expression, okay? Maybe one hole's bigger, one hole's smaller. Therefore, it takes on different aspects, okay? But in the end, there's only one singular is at the heart and center of everything. And when all deconstructs, that's what I said, at persona, all those divisionary ideas that one has gathered about who and what they are, their soap opera, when that deconstructs, one is left with purely that indivisible intellect without knowledge, okay, light beyond lights, okay, that permanent life force, which does not come and go, that which is beyond being born, has never died, has been eternal in nature. One is aware simply of that. That becomes one's direct conscious awareness, rather than being caught up in subdivisionary field of ongoing dramas. Okay. Let's continue on here. The various systems of philosophy merely expound and interpret the different aspects of this reality from different points of view. Exactly. And that's why I said, once one deconstructs into realization, you can look at the various forms of philosophy and see exactly where they're going and can comment on that. Okay? People that have had glimpses of this or that, they will have a different view and try to explain it from their point of view of what they have experienced. Okay. And this will equate out to different ways to explain it, depending on culture, depending on their life experience, etc. Different cultures will express it in different ways. It comes from the same reality, but the view, the way it's skewed, depends on what one's cultural background is and their experiences to date. Okay. When one has glimpsed that, one will come back and try to share it with humanity. Maybe they're not fully realized, okay, but they've had a glimpse, and they've had a very deep experience, and so they want to come and share it in the divisionary realm to bring pointings to move people forward to that point of the journey. Okay. It is the ultimate reality which becomes the individual soul involved in worldly illusions by the simultaneous limitation of the divine power and obscuration, like I said, you don't see that divine consciousness when working through an individualized center in reality. Exactly. As long as one believes they are this persona, and I'm not talking about a belief system you can just drop. You know, some people think, well, all I have to do is recognize that there's something beyond and claim it, okay, and say that I'm that. Well, it doesn't work that way, okay, because, again, one has to come to that point of being absolutely still before this illusion breaks. Until that illusion breaks, one thinks that they are this contracted ego with all these experiences and dramas that are taking place. And they think they are something separate. Okay, they think there's something separate. But you can never be, again, you can never be separate from that. if you were separate from that, if you were separate from what they term God, you would have no life, okay? You would have no life, okay? So you can never truly be separate from that, but it is totally occluded when one is caught up in the daily life and all the expressions of the Dvaita realm, okay? Even under these limitations of the microcosmic soul in bondage, performs the 5 divine functions like the microcosmic oversoul. Yeah, all the functions still, they take place. But it's in a more, again, a more contracted type of from a more contracted place, rather than this place of expansion and spontaneity, okay? These 5 divine functions, which are performed by the microcosmic soul in a limited and veiled form, are manifestation, attachment or involvement, ideation, proliferation, and dissolution. Okay. So these are the things that all of these things, again, are in the divisionary realm. These are things which runs mind. Okay, which continues to obscure the divine is. Manifestation, attachment, getting caught up. You're attached to this emotion, you're attached to this drama, involved in this action, involved in that action, ideas that are going on, okay? Proliferation, it's you're expounding, and if you attach to one thought, it's going to grow. Okay, you can try to dispel it. Things will come and go. Okay, things continue to come and go in the divisionary realm. Okay, but underneath of it is that eternal, what is eternal in nature. Okay. The essential nature of bondage in the unreal world of manifestation is being infatuated with one's own limited individual power, owing to lack of awareness of that reality which is the source of all power. Exactly. And this is what I said. Small egos will chase powers. Infatuated. Look what I can do. Okay? When they don't know that the greatest, like I said, the greatest siddha is one that's gone beyond the cities, one that has deconstructed into that universal is. At that point, then is one that's no longer this contracted entity that needs to protect itself or have powers or to convince itself of its uniqueness or whatever it is it's trying to do. At that point, one knows that they are this inherent is. Unchanging, dynamic, okay, without birth, without death, okay, and then again, that deconstructs all this drama. When one is the complete source of all power, why do you need to try to project powers? Okay, one just rests confidently in that. Okay, let's continue on. It's got a lot of commentary here that I have to scroll through to get to the next verse. But the individual mind, by piercing inwards towards its central source by contemplation, and this is what I'm trying to teach people, how to come to that still awareness, how to be able to look at the mind, neti, not this, not this, not this. Okay. How it can be made to revert to the state of pure consciousness, and by thus acquiring knowledge of it, become Chit, or the reality itself. Again, when it deconstructs, you are no longer that ego form that's searching for this or that. Realization is not something an ego form gets. There is no separation in that. This idea of being a separate entity deconstructs. Okay, all the baggage is gone. That's why it's saying it's blown out. Nibbana, nirvana, okay, blown out. It's no longer within one's consciousness driving them. They see that it was like, that's why it's called awakening, because it's like a dream. At that point of time, you see that all of these constructs one had grabbed to and been, clinging to or pushing away and fighting with, etc., have occluded this ever-present is, which is the center of being, okay? So one becomes that reality, rather than seeking that reality, hoping to glean it, hoping to pull something from it, to develop powers, etc., as a contracted form of ego drama. All of that releases, okay, and one finds that they have always been this paramount is, which runs like a thread through all of the divisionary realm, yet is untouched by any of the drama that takes place. And this is why, if you have been through traumatic things, etc., why when realization takes place, all of that is released in a heartbeat. It's done. Because nothing can touch this primary is. Okay? All the things that have ever happened have happened to the form alone, which one has identified with. Okay? Therefore, it became trauma. Okay? But when this ideation of form has broken, and one knows they have never been this form, they are this spirit, this is, then all of that is immediately at an end. It's like, again, like waking up from a dream. Was that a dream? Was that this? Was that that? It holds no power any longer. Okay, let's continue forward. The fire of Chitti, even in its lower stages of manifestation, when it is covered by various obscuring agents, is always burning the fuel of the objects in the objective world, in the measure of its intensity, by the exercise of vivek or spiritual discrimination. Exactly. The one that the further one goes within their attention to deconstructing what is in the divisionary realm, the more spiritual discrimination takes place, it starts to burn the illusions. It starts to burn away that dross and that obscuring feature. Okay. On gaining the necessary intensity through self-discipline, the fire of Chit reduces the whole universe to itself by giving the realization that it is nothing but an expression of reality. Exactly. That illusion of being a separate entity ends. Okay. The fire of Chit is like Kundalini. When Kundalini rises, all of these dramas that one has gathered and collected, feared, clung to, imaginations, all come to the forefront to be navigated through within discrimination. And they will break as one goes continued through the fires of Kundalini, the fires of discrimination, until one gets to the point where I said that, that you've done everything you can, and the only thing left to do is utterly surrender. And in that absolute, and it has to be total surrender, you cannot hold back anything to try to save yourself. In that moment of absolute, total, utter surrender, everything breaks and one has shifted from the mind of divisionary, and one dies to that divisionary, and it does feel like a death. It feels like one is absolutely dying. And I've told this to students, and they go, yeah, we get it. But when they start getting that point, but no, you don't understand, I'm really going to die. Well, that's what I've said, okay? It really feels like a death, okay? So when you are giving these instructions to people, they're going, yeah, well, she doesn't actually mean it. No, when I say it, I actually do mean it, that it feels like a death, okay? But in the end, again, nothing dies. The only thing that dies is the illusion, okay? That's what dies, the illusion, okay? And one awakens to the fact, I have never been born, nor have I ever died. It's like I said, it blows the mind. The mind of constructs is no longer there. And it doesn't go back to congealing into these separation and divisionary thoughts. That's why one has to have that clarity where the mind has still to be able to see beyond the divisionary realm, because all thought creates division. All thought creates, it's that power, that Shakti, like the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, the Word is creationary. Okay. That attention, that it congeals things into, like I said, it's the quantum factor, okay, of mind, and how it works to create the illusion of the various realms, okay. So let's continue forward. On the attainment of our Chidanand nature in self-realization, there is continued awareness of our underlying real nature, even though the mental world containing our body is still present in the field of consciousness. It is the state which we call Jivan Mukti, or liberation in an embodied condition. Exactly. One doesn't become unaware of what's going on. The eyes still see, the body still functions in the world, but the difference is there is non-attachment to that. When one first comes out of realization, and at the towards the very end of one's seeking, the body becomes where he looks in the mirror and you go, what is this thing? One starts becoming unattached to the form. Sometimes it's like when I used to walk across the bridge over the Ganges in Rishikesh. Every time I'd step on the bridge, I'd lose contact with form, and it would be like this puppet trying to walk across this bridge. There was not this feeling of being this form. Okay, so that begins to leave into even before realization. When one gets into latter stages of their journey, there starts to be a disconnect with an identification of being a body, a form, okay? So it's a very unusual thing when that begins to take place. One begins to look at this thing like, what is this, you know? But when realization takes place, even though the body acts and everything is spontaneous in nature, like I said, it continues to be spontaneous. When I look at these, I'm not sitting here thinking, what does this mean? What does this mean? It's spontaneous that comes out. The body acts, it's spontaneous. Yes, the body does its karmic thing, whatever it came in to do. It continues to act. It's not going to look any different from any other body. But the difference is, okay, that consciousness is liberated. It does not believe that it is this body. The body is like using a computer. It's a method of experience within the divided realm. Let me say that again. It's a method of experience within the divided realm. But one is not that separation of divida. Okay? One is not that congealed ego form. It has expanded, it has dropped, it has gone into that awareness of simply that is. Okay? So self-realization, or the attainment of Chidanand, that bliss state of that awareness, the bliss state of awareness, is made possible by the unfoldment and development of the center of one's own consciousness. Okay, I wouldn't say the development of the center of one's consciousness, because again, that makes it seem like it's going to come to some me-ism, that this contracted form of ego is going to get it. That's not what happens. Like you say, it happens by grace, because one doesn't get anything. It's not by your own means, it is by grace that it takes place, okay? One has always been that, but it has nothing to do with this constructed ego, me. Okay. Yes, one has to do the path. One has to continue to surrender within that. One has to continue to allow the mind to still. One has to take the point of observation. One has to take the point of neti, not this, not this, not this. Questioning, sitting there in stillness. What is this I? Like I've said, watching objectively the mind come and the mind go, and what are the constructs. Watching the emotions as they come and they go, and questioning, where did they go? What causes them to arise? And when they recede, where did it go? What was the reality it had then? These are the things that naturally, spontaneously comes as one continues to do that path. Okay. The methods for developing the center are, let's see what they say. Stopping gradually the activity of the mind. Again, learning to be in the now. These are the methodologies that I give out. Okay. How to still, how to sit with, how to observe. And nobody can just hand it to you. This is why I'm saying you have to do it yourself. You know, like one guy came and said to Ramana, can you give me this? Well, I can give it, but can you take it? Okay? I can give you the methodologies, but can you take it? You're the one that has to put it into effect. You're the one that has to sit with it. You're the one that can't run away from it. Okay? You have to be willing to face it and go through it step by step by step. Okay? Let's go on to the next part. Learning the technique of withdrawing and projecting the divine power manifesting through the center of consciousness. Okay. Well, again, now that would indicate to me of doing some sorts of powers, but again, that's not needed. The thing is to just continue to go within and allow these things to break. Neti, it's not this, it's not this, it's not that. Okay. Regulating when necessary, interrupting the flow of prana and other types of energies along their respective channels. Okay, this has to do with Kundalini. They say there are 3 channels. This is why I give the balanced breath. Once Kundalini awakens, it's very important to stay in that balanced breath. When one transcends, I say one has entered that pregnant void, 0 point balance. Okay, that is without aspects. Okay, that primal is. Okay. So let's continue forward. Trying to perceive the reality in and beyond the point by penetrating into this point and the extreme states on either side, and other yogic techniques of similar nature. Well, like I said, one deconstructs into the 0 point. 0 point. Okay, it's not a point of divisionary construct. It's 0 point. Like the linga, pregnant void, contains all things, yet it is yet unmanifest. Intellect without knowledge. Pure intellect. Okay. Pure life force. Pure is without attributes. Okay. So the techniques that are given, that are developed, that I developed to give people, came out of my own journey, okay? Some of them are there to expand, to start to begin to expand one's consciousness, to remain in the heart center, to do the I am that I am, the Om that I am, the balanced breath, the contemplation of self. All of these are there. And then there are some other mantras and things that I give out later that help to break through, that are levels of breaking through, breaking through, breaking through, breaking through. Okay, they're very strong, and I don't speak about them out here. They are only for students that have entered that way, that have ongoing Kundalini activity, are ready for that breaking through stage. Okay. Okay, let's go forward. In order to attain the permanent and irreversible state of samadhi, or the Sahaj Samadhi, ongoing effortless samadhi, it is necessary to merge one's consciousness with the one reality again and again whenever the samadhi state begins to disappear and mental activity begins to appear. Okay. Now in this, it's talking to somebody that's gone in and out, in and out, in and out. They've had glimpses and they keep rerouting. Glimpse of rerouting, glimpse of rerouting, glimpse of rerouting. Hopefully, if you've done the practices the right way, when you deconstruct, it stays deconstructed. One doesn't reroute. And so for that, when I say that things have actually deconstructed, is the time to read the Vivek Chudamani, the Ashtavakra Gita. These are texts which show you how not to reroute. How important it is at that point not to try to define what's happened. If you, at that point, deconstruct into realization, one has had that glimpse of it, that glimmer of it, and one comes out of it and sees the divisionary world. If at that point one tries to reassert the mind, which many will do, try to reassert the mind because it's so foreign to be totally without thought, and they try to make sense of what's happened, then they are once again projecting outward and projecting into divisionary experience and congealing back to this ego identity. So again, when one gets to the point, things will start kind of deconstructing. You'll be in and out. You'll have glimpses of things. But the thing is to prepare for that point when everything blows out, and to understand how not to reroute. And when everything again has fallen away, it takes a good 4 or 5 more years after that point for things to settle, okay? To become the normal consciousness, okay? So the immediate point of realization is not the end. You still have another 4 or 5 years of awe and wonder and things that take place before things have totally finally settled into permanent Sahaj Samadhi. Okay. Let's see, where we go. Then is attained that all-inclusive awareness of ultimate reality, which is the essence of consciousness and bliss, in which is inherently present the integrated power of sound capable of creation and destruction of any kind, anywhere, anytime, which confers lordship over the hierarchy of deities functioning in the particular manifested system, which in short is the ultimate reality referred to as Shiva. Okay. One has gone beyond these idea of gods and goddesses, etc. One knows they are inherent energies. Okay. One is no longer caught up in all of these divisionary lands and all of this. One passes through that on the way to realization. And that's the end of it there. One has all these constructs that take place, these cities, these experiences, and again, you become like Shiva in that it doesn't matter if the world is here or it deconstructs. If there's creation or if there's destruction, one is dancing. One has entered that flow. One has entered that flow. Okay? And it becomes the play of God at that point. That's what they call the play of God. One is no longer being run by mental drama. Okay? One is simply that. And the form does its expression in the world. Okay? But one is not confused by the form nor the expressions that are taking place. Okay? So I hope that you have gotten something from this. Thank you for asking. It was an interesting one. There's a couple of things in there that I'm kind of might have changed. But again, all of these texts come out of somebody's individual experience and how they try to relate what takes place, try to relate, something that is beyond words into words to help those that are within the divisionary mind to kind of grasp a little or glean a little insight as to what realization is and not, and the ways to arrive there. So he's trying to give his pointers. I have a few other pointers. Like I said, it's preferable not to reroute back into persona and continue to have ongoing glimpses. Okay? For some, they may have ongoing glimpses and rerouting. But there are ways to not reroute. Okay? One has to understand what the process is, and when things fall away, to no longer try to go back into intellect and try to make sense of it. Try to make, again, things back into a construct. Because one is used to being a construct, a contracted form. Okay? One's not used to being this blown out, simply is. Okay? One goes from being somebody to nobody. Okay? I don't exist. I've never existed. Okay? I was an illusion of this fakaka mind. Okay? So again, to come to the point of accepting that and not trying to define or categorize or push away or whatever is what's needed to remain in realization once everything breaks and deconstructs. Okay, so again, you can never be away from God, and this is another thing that happens. It's for God to exist, there must be something other than, but there's nothing other than this in the universe. Therefore, one can equally say it's only God and there is no such thing as God. Okay? So again, this is another mind bender that can take place of cognition along the way, because there's nothing in the universe other than that energetic form, which gives life and the potential for all these happenings to take place and divide a realm. Okay? So I'm going to leave this here. Namaste. Have a great morning, a great day. It's 7:06 here, so I'm going to see if I can get this up online. Namaste.